Right, in this video, I'm going to be discussing Matheus Pereira as a suitable-ish replacement for Jesse Lingard. Now, if you're led to be believed the rumours, he's signing a new contract at Manchester United, it completely changes the dynamic of how West Ham can get him out of Old Trafford. You've got to look at the fact that I don't really want a player at West Ham that doesn't want to be there, and I know he's enjoyed his time at the club, and I mean, the stats are absolutely unbelievable. I've just started sifting through them now to compare him to Matheus Pereira and what West Ham could possibly get from him as a replacement. And it's very difficult to match them. And that's why Pereira, in some sense, is actually almost an idyllic replacement, because he is so close to Lingard in the most important key stats that you need for a creative player, but also for a player that needs to work hard off the ball. And I wonder whether West Ham, whilst it is disappointing not to get Jesse Lingard in, and if you're looking at the eye test as well, what he offers going in beyond directness, ball carries, and the stats reflect that, you are getting a player in Pereira that is very similar to a degree, that actually statistically, defensively, can make more tackles and interceptions, which isn't a huge thing per game, but certainly something that could work in his favour. And then you look creatively in terms of big chances created, carries, he's not that far off Lingard. So I do think this is a really viable option for West Ham to look at, and I'm going to discuss what I think in terms of the stats and what they suggest. So you can find these stats in FBref, so I suppose I should really credit them before I start getting into things. The goals per 90 for both of them here, I mean, you're looking at Jesse Lingard 0.32 expected goals and Matheus Pereira 0.25. Now, I should also warrant that when you're comparing these two players, you've got to look at one side that's finished 6th in the Premier League, and you're looking at another side that's just been relegated. And those are huge statistics. And you even look at it in terms of form. Jesse Lingard's form this season, particularly since he's coming to West Ham, or clearly since he's coming to West Ham, has been absolutely tremendous. And his consistency in terms of getting goals and assists is some of the highest in the Premier League. So when you're comparing it, and you're seeing that per 90, which only really reflects in terms of the minutes that both of these players have played, there's 0.07 XG between them. That suggests how good a player Matheus Pereira can be in terms of a goal threat. And then in assists, again, very, very similar, 0.25 for Lingard and 0.21 for Matheus Pereira. So there's very, very little in it. And both of them really and truthfully have a really similar expected goal and assist ratios. So it does show you that these type of players are both effective, that they can start to change things in the final third, that they can influence things, but equally, and probably most importantly, they are contributing and they're being directly effective to whatever team that they're playing for. You look in terms of the shots on target per 90 and the shots therefore leading to goals. Lingard's taking more shots than Matheus Pereira, but there is very little difference in terms of what shot then equates to a goal. And again, it shows you the effectiveness. If you're talking about West Ham, realistically speaking, you need a player that is going to thrive, and we are missing a real natural finisher, whether it's coming from midfield or whether it's coming from the number 9. And Lingard, to be fair, contributed a number of goals from a deeper midfield position, or at least a deeper position behind Mikel Antonio to this side. So I do think West Ham is something that we need to look out for. It's something that we need to incorporate within the side. And I'm not saying Matheus Pereira should come to West Ham and score 10 goals and get 10 assists, but I do think having an effective finisher from the chances that West Ham create is crucial for us to go and build on next season. And you skirt through some of these facts as well, and you look through them. Again, similar XG and expected goals, naturally. Passing, again, very similar. But I am going to draw the attention to the number of shot-creating actions and goal-creating actions. And again, you know, Lingard is out in front in terms of goal-creating actions. And naturally, that becomes from the results of the outcomes in which he's carrying the ball, he's getting into the final third a little bit more at West Ham. He's more, for me, on the eye test, he's more effective in those transitions. And then in those breakdowns, either he's had a shot blocked or whether he's made the pass, he is directly influencing things. And he is doing it more so than Matheus Pereira. Now, a lot of that comes down to how often West Ham are getting into the opposition box. Anyone that's watched West Ham last season knows how many chances we were creating, particularly during a 3-month spell when he was in the side. So you can say that contributes to it. But this is, more importantly for me, an indication as to how creative Matheus Pereira is, and it really fits in with the amount of chances that he created for a struggling West Brom side, and it's the shot creating actions per 90. Now, Lingard is out ahead, naturally. He's created less overall because he's played less time, but there's 3.6 for somebody like Matheus Pereira and 3.86 for Jesse Lingard. Very, very little in it, and in fact, Matheus Pereira is actually having more live passes in the final third than Lingard. And so the important thing to remember with all of these things that I've mentioned, and I know it may get a little bit lost in terms of the terminology, everything you're talking about in terms of an attacking player, whether it's goals and assists, whether it's carries, whether it's shot creating actions, things affecting the play in the final third, Matheus Pereira is very close to Jesse Lingard in a poorly performing side. And I think there is a bargain to be had there if West Ham really want to go and spend 15, 20 mil. And I know West Brom fans will be fuming at that because he's worth more, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind either. Now, you're looking at defensive actions, and normally for a club that is possession-based, for a club that controls play and dictates play, these stats aren't really important. But Lingard offered a lot more than just actions in the final third. Defensive actions, number of pressures, the energy that he brought to the side was something that we thought we were going to get, and we did get. We didn't expect to get the type of goals and assists that he contributed to West Ham. Now, if you're looking at the stats per 90 in terms of the pressures, again, Lingard is just out ahead, but Matheus Pereira is still contributing defensively. He's still working hard within the side. Successfully, he's not that far off. He's just 0.5% off Jesse Lingard in terms of those successful pressures. And he is operating more in the defensive third. And I think that's what's crucial to remember here. He's willing to work hard. And you look at a player that's going to come into West Ham, and Lingard is a player that is very versatile. He's played false 9, he's played number 10, he's played on either side of an attacking midfield 3. He could probably play in a 4-3-3 as well. Matheus Pereira's played in a 4-5-1. And a lot of his play for West Brom has either been, he's kind of been that floating number 10 just in behind the striker, but he's had to work hard defensively when Sam Allardyce has asked him to get back into shape. So he's showing you that he's willing to work hard off the ball. He's developed that in his game. He's moved away from Slaven Bilic in terms of giving him the responsibility, and we know that he can do that, and he's proven that in the Premier League. But he's actually added this to his game, and that's something that David Moyes could find incredibly attractive. And then, of course, you've got things like number of blocks and tackles, which he is higher than Jesse Lingard in per 90. The only thing I can put that down to is him being in the defensive third a little bit more than Lingard, and Lingard being more prominent in that 4-4-2 out of possession and up there with Mikel Antonio. Both of these players in possession are interesting for me in terms of what they do, how effective they are. And it is important to be effective, particularly you know for your side and in terms of creating things and influencing things. But it is also important to try and use movement, use ball carries to try and make space for other players. And that's something that I really would like to see from Matheus Pereira. I'm just going to have a quick look through the stats now. You're looking at the successful dribbles. 1.33 for Jesse Lingard per 90, 1.36 for Matheus Pereira. He is, for me, a more successful dribbler. We've seen that in terms of the success rate. It's a little bit higher than Jesse per 90 as well. Number of nutmegs, higher than Jesse Lingard. So again, he's a very effective player in terms of getting on the ball, carrying it. And I do wonder whether, because of his success rate in terms of dribbling, it could take the pressure off a player like Mikel Antonio, who West Ham use off the centre line, trying to push him to the left and trying to carry the ball and try and split defences apart a little bit. But, of course, as we know this season, Lingard has had more ball carries. The progressive distance is the most... It's not a worrying aspect for Pereira. I think when you bring a player like Pereira in, you need to know his strengths. And again, I expect West Ham to have enough ball carries in and around, particularly with an attacking midfield 3 in Mikel Antonio. So it isn't concerning. But the progressive distance that Lingard has had in this West Ham side has been absolutely phenomenal. And the stats show it. He's had 159.7 progressive distance carries compared to 97.8 for Pereira per 90. That's astonishing. And a lot of that owes to his directness. And that's what West Ham really benefited from, probably more even than his technical ability. He could carry the ball at quite a quick rate and over a long distance. And again, West Ham will miss that inevitably. And that will be my only concern. The progressive distance in terms of getting into the final third, again, 7.59 compared to Pereira's 5.59. Particularly carries that enter the third of the pitch closest to the goal. So again, that's 3 times for Jesse Lingard and only 1 for Pereira. So again, Pereira is a successful dribbler in terms of what he's doing on the ball, in terms of carrying it and beating players, but he's not being direct. And I wonder whether David Moyes goes against that slightly. Listen, I think there's wiggle room. I think if you're West Ham, you're David Moyes, you're thinking you're not really going to get a player that fitted, that moulded as well to the side as Jesse Lingard did. And Pereira, and having said all of this, to go and get 10 goals and 6 assists for West Brom is phenomenal. And you compare it to Lingard in terms of what he's done, you wonder what Pereira could do in a side like West Ham over the course of a season with regular game time. But again, like most signings, you can't expect someone to come in and perform the same role. And he won't be as direct. But what he offers off the ball in terms of pressures, how clinical he is when he gets into the final third. That's something to take the bargain on. And I think him being able to carry the ball, beat players, and keep hold of the ball as well is something that I would be interested to see. And I think that negates the need to have a player that can carry it over such a progressive distance. To keep the ball and allow players to get close to him could be more attractive. And I think this summer, in terms of even looking at likes of Tammy Abraham, I think West Ham will have to adapt the way that we build into the final third. I think it will change ever so slightly. But if you're looking in terms of affordability, if Manchester United want 25 million for Jesse Lingard and he's not willing to come, I would go 20 mil for Pereira. I think that's probably top end for me. I think that's enough to bring him into the club. I think West Brom will sell. He'll want to move. I know West Brom fans will think he's 25, 30. And maybe you look at Buendia and you look at the difference in terms of the effectiveness in the Premier League, and you look at Norwich City, whether West Brom fans will feel a little bit aggrieved to let him go for 20. But I think if West Ham could get him for 20 million, I think he's a suitable replacement. And I think he's proven to be effective in the league, and I would love to see him in a West Ham shirt. But let me know your opinions on it. I've gone through the stats. Again, you can find them on FBref. I'm not pulling up any trees here, but I was just interested to talk with everyone about your feelings about, is Pereira the right fit for West Ham? Would you take a gamble on him? Would you bring him into the club? I know it's disappointing not to get Lingard in, but you just feel that his overall play, everything that he can offer to this side, and ultimately, and probably above everything for me, he's done it in the league before. You talk about gambles in terms of signings from the Championship. He's done it in this league in a poorly performing side, and I wonder, giving him a platform, and again, we might have to slightly adapt our style of play, but giving him a platform, getting the ball into him, giving him regular game time, the same that he's had at West Brom, might be a solution in this instance. But like the video, subscribe to the West Ham Way if you're new. Until next time, everybody, take care.